hello and happy new year.
Happy New Year!
It is we're back finally, a little later than I expected, but excuses. New Year's and then my kitten got fixed last Friday. So it just
Yep.
things come up, but we're back for all 30-ish of you that I know of. I finally checked how many followers we actually have.
Hey
Um
guys. I'm glad to be
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
I mean, that's just Apple. Maybe on Pandora we have more because
What about yeah.
Apple's not even our like primary place where people listen to us. I don't even know if it's the primary place people listen to podcasts anymore.
I would listen to mine on Spotify.
That's what I was going to say. I think a lot more people are listening on Spotify and other sources because I kind of
Yeah.
fell off the podcast train for a little while.
Yeah, it's okay.
Not gonna lie, just I work a more front-facing job now, so I don't get to listen as much.
Yeah.
And when I came
That's
back to
fair.
Apple, I don't like something's different about the format. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It plays episodes in not the correct order.
Oh, I hate that.
So
Oh,
I've been on
God.
my own journey of trying to find a better podcast platform to listen
Yep.
on.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we are
We are here.
we are here, still alive. This is our mini show where we just catch up on stuff, do some business. We're picking our next TV show we're gonna watch because we finished Death Note and it went so much faster
Yes.
than the Vampire Diaries.
Oh my God, it was. I feel like the Vampire Diaries just and the originals, I feel like it was all like one thing,
I know
you know.
it really slogged on. Like
It
at first
did.
we were doing pretty well with it, but around season 5 of Vampire
Oh
Diaries, it was just
God, it was a
how are they
chore.
coming up with more stories? So
I know. How many more enemies do you have in the world?
yeah.
God.
So let's touch base on the final 10 episodes of Death Note where there's a big kind of battle for who is the true successor of L
Yeah.
while Kira is achieving his hopes and dreams of becoming a god of a new world.
Yes.
Um so
Yeah.
L's successors, basically there's this orphanage in like Winchester, England, where Watari raises orphans to become like these super genius detectives to save the world.
hmm As you do.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do with
Why
orphans?
not? I know they're all crazy geniuses. I
It's
mean, like, look at
yeah.
Batman.
Yeah, it's not like they have parents to say no.
Exactly.
Uh,
Nope.
so the two top candidates were Nier, who's super young. He was probably like 5 when when they found out Elle was dead, and then
I,
Mello.
I'm sorry. It's true.
He's a
It's
baby.
fine. I know. That's why it's so funny. But anyway,
And
you
then
had Mello.
Mello, who's very dramatic. He's an angsty 12-year-old when they find out. He's like, you know what? It's gonna be Nier. I knew it was always gonna be Nier, so I'm just gonna go do stuff on my own.
Yeah, it's like everyone thinks it's going to be Near because Near looks like Elle with
Yeah,
white hair or like
yeah.
blonde hair or whatever. But yeah, anyway.
Nier is the most like Elle in terms of mannerisms.
Uh-huh.
Um, but as we find out in the last episode, it's kind of maybe predestined that they were always supposed to work together because
Yeah,
separate, they're not as good, but together they can surpass Elle and take down Kira.
absolutely.
And one moment that I forgot from the
Yeah.
series because it's been years since I watched it, there's a really
Uh-huh.
cute moment where Nears dismissed his FBI collaborators. He calls
hmm
up his closest collaborator and he's like, hey, can you come help me fly? And he's like, well, I thought you didn't want our help because it was getting too dangerous. And Near said, well, I've never actually booked a flight or flown before, so I was wondering if you could escort
Yeah,
me. And
I've never flown by myself before.
it was so sweet and reminded
It
me that
was
Near is just a child.
a child, like a
And then you see them
person.
on the plane and he's handing him toys to play with because
Yeah,
that's Near's
that's
quirk
Near's
is
thing. Yeah,
he likes his toys to kind of think things out.
yeah.
And
So there's yeah.
meanwhile, um
Mellow eats
Light
just candy bar. Oh yeah, Light just eats like oh no, I'm sorry. Elle eats just junk.
yeah, Elle eats a lot of sugar and drinks a lot of coffee and sits the way he does
Yeah.
so he doesn't fall asleep. Uh,
Right.
that's his thing.
And then
Um,
Mello eats the chocolate bar all the time. That's it.
Meanwhile, what's going
Mhm.
on with Light is he's just become the worst version of himself. Mello kidnaps his sister. He and Nier work together to get his sister back, but his sister's traumatized once they get back. They give Mello the Death Note. More importantly, his dad gives Mello the Death Note to save his sister.
Mhm.
This causes Light's dad to kind of have a crisis of faith, which leads to a big shootout at Mello's hideout. That leads to Detective Yagami's death because
He like gets shot and has to go to the hospital. Yeah.
he's a big
Yeah.
believer in justice. He's actually what Light is pretending to be. He believes in justice,
Right.
he believes in fair punishment. So
Yeah.
instead, he made this deal with Ryuk to get the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew Mello's real name, but
Yeah.
he did not want to immediately write it down in the notebook. He wanted to give Mello a chance to surrender, to turn
Right.
himself in,
Yeah.
and that
For
cost him his
justice.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. For justice to be served. But yep, it
Yeah.
cost me life. Yep. Rest in peace.
Two new
Goodness.
characters were also introduced aside from Nier and Mello to expand the world, and the world in which Kira is creating is Mikami. I want to say his name is his the hand of Kira. Uh, to get rid of the
Oh.
notebook out of
Yeah.
his possession
Oh yeah.
so that he would have numbers above his head when his dad died, proving he wasn't Kira. Because
And he's
that would
like
be
the yeah.
a big plan hole if you forget that a Death Note holder doesn't have a lifespan available.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
he sends the Death Note to a very loyal follower, Mikami, who would probably be a school shooter, honestly.
He's like
Um,
an emo lawyer that goes to the gym at the same time every night.
yeah,
If that guy, yeah,
yeah.
school shooter,
And then
yes.
because
Definitely.
he thinks people are rotten and there is justice that needs to be served, and finally God showed himself and he knows he's on the right track, and through Mikami we bring back
The girl.
Takata.
Yeah.
I think her name is Takata.
Yeah.
Light's blink and you miss her college girlfriend. She's in like an episode and a half in the first half of the series.
Yeah.
But she was his girlfriend in college, big follower of Kira, and he's like, "Hey, you're the spokesperson of Kira. I am
And
Kira, and I love
Kira.
you.
She's like, "Ooh, I love you."
I love you, and you're gonna be the goddess of the new world."
And she's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Wow, Light is Riz King."
Yeah.
Anyway.
And, and of course, Misa's pissed about this.
I would be pissed too. Poor Misa. She does everything for Light.
I know, but she's like,
But
"No, Light's just doing it for the Kira investigation. I understand. He doesn't
right.
really love her." And
Damn
it's
it,
true.
Light.
It's true. He doesn't love Takata.
He
Uh,
loves himself.
he only loves himself
I know.
with some probably confusing feelings towards L.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
like I would argue that he probably no, I
Like
wouldn't say he cares
bisexual.
about Misa. He forgets about Misa.
He does. And everyone's
But
like, oh my God, how can you not care?
I
He
think we
does.
see Takata and what he does to Takata. He uses the Death Note to command her to kill herself via setting herself on fire.
That was crazy. I was like, what the
He burns her alive, and I feel like the second Misa, and we know from the first time we meet Misa and they create
Mhm.
their alliance, he would do the same to her in an instant.
Right. Yes, of course.
Um, because he only loves himself. He only loves his power. He's
Yes.
Delulu.
Hmm. Oh
But this
yeah.
all and when Takata sets herself on fire, she also kills Mello because Light gave her the name, and the
Yeah.
rest of the investigation force is growing more suspicious of Light because Nier has brought up that Light Yagami or L2
Yeah.
is Kira, and everybody's like, well, that was what L thought for the longest time, so maybe there is some truth to it.
Maybe it really is Light like this whole time, you guys. Like I feel like throughout the whole thing they keep going back to him
Yeah.
and he just like thwarts them, but every single time he's able to throw them off their path, it's like a weaker and weaker attempt.
Yeah.
And now he has like no more choices. Now he has nothing left.
And
All right, sorry.
all of this comes to a head in a warehouse where they meet face to face near in an L mask for symbolism. And
Yeah.
as they're meeting, what's his face is outside rapidly deleting people from the face of the earth.
Dude, that dude freaks me out because whenever he first got the notebook and like was writing people's names like faster than Light ever did, I was like, whoa, this guy might be worse, if not, you know what I mean, in a way.
So he's being freaky out there, all into the notebook. And there's a lot of mumbo jumbo about switching the notebook around that I can't remember. But Nier says no one's going to die because it's not the real notebook. And Light's like, haha, that's what you think. It actually is the real notebook. Feeling confident and full of himself, Light says, are
Mhm.
you done writing names now? And Mikami says, yes, sir, I'm done.
Ugh. Yes, yes, God.
Yeah, and comes in and they all count down to 40 seconds together and then end of episode. Cliffhanger.
That was so crazy because didn't at the end of that Light say something like, I got you or some shit? And I was like, ah,
Yeah.
yeah, Light wins again.
Yeah, I think he said I win. Um,
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, because I
and then
still really like Light. And
and
then,
and then the next episode, no, it was a fake notebook because
fuck.
they figured out that there was a second notebook, so they found the
Yeah.
notebook. They followed Mikami to a safety deposit box, and they knew that's where it
Mhm.
was because it was the first time he was concerned about someone following him. Light has this little mental breakdown. Ha. It was me all along, but look at this great new world I've created. And
Right.
um,
They're like, you're sick, Light. We're
yeah.
gonna shoot your hand. And he's like,
And
oh,
they tell Light what he's never wanted to hear is that he's just another serial killer who's done the greatest mass killing in all of human history.
right. Yeah.
And
He's like, what?
he pulls out his emergency death note paper from his watch, and it's Matsuda who's the one that shoots his hand
Yeah.
and fully confronts Light and gets him to try and atone and answer for what he's done in
Yeah.
the name of his father, who really tried to fight for justice.
Yeah.
And Light uh, insults his father's legacy. He says his father was a fool, and they're all fools too for not getting in line behind Kira because that's the
Right.
only way to true justice in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always liked Matsuda's growth a lot. You've compared Light Yagami, or you've just said Light reminds you of Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil.
Just
But with
yeah.
the Resident Evil 2 and 4 remakes, I feel like Matsuda's like kind of story arc
Uh-huh.
mimics Leon's story arc a lot, where Leon is this bright-eyed, optimistic police officer until like
Uh-huh.
the moment he's not, where he sees like how fucked up the world
Yeah,
is.
he sees too much,
Hmm.
and Matsuda has too, and now he's like hardened by the reality of like
Yeah,
psychopaths and monsters just and they're like with him,
yeah,
you
because
know.
the Yagamis were
Yeah.
Matsuda's, like, he looked up to them, even though Light was younger than him, but he looked up to Detective Yagami and then later Light because they were true beacons of justice. They always tried to do the right thing, and to find out that Light never believed in any of what they were doing
Right.
was probably heartbreaking, and that Light was the mass murderer they were looking for this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so Light runs away. He manages to get away after he's shot like 7 times.
Yeah. I really thought he would still survive too, but
No,
no.
his fate was always predetermined by Ryuk, and it's one
Ryuk,
of my
yeah.
favorite endings of any anime.
Yeah.
Um I think I like the dialogue in the manga better, where Ryuk seems a little more sympathetic
Yeah.
to killing Light, but it's only just a matter of, he says in this, you've lost. It looks like you've finally lost.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I'll
but in
write your
the
name in my book.
yeah, but the manga, he's like, well, I've gone over it a few times in my head, and there's just no way you can come out of this one, Light. I just don't see a way. So,
Yeah.
as I promised, I'm going to be the one to write your name in my book. It's the contract between human and Shinigami.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this ending works because it shows us, or it's supposed to show us, that Light's fate was never like his to control. It was Ryuk's fate to
Yeah.
control.
Mm-hmm.
At any moment, Ryuk could have said, nah, I'm bored, and just ended it all.
Yeah.
But he wanted to see where it went, and it went as far as it could, and
Mm-hmm.
he ended it. Another important point to note before the task force runs after Light to try and find him, Nier tells them that he's not going to get far because he's going to bleed out soon, but the task force just says, we're not going to take orders from you.
Right.
Kind
Yeah.
of solidifying that he's not really replacing L.
Yes. Yeah.
In that,
And yeah.
despite everything, Light was still their friend and they want to go find him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so Ryuk writes Light's name down, and Light has a heart attack, and the last thing he sees is the ghost of L watching him die,
Yeah.
which solidifies. Like, you could argue Light doesn't love anybody, but I think he has complicated feelings towards L. He definitely doesn't like women.
I know, right?
Like, he has
Yeah.
he has these two babes throwing themselves at him,
For
and
real.
he's just not interested.
He's not.
He's always thinking about what would Elle do? What would Elle say?
I know, I know. And then even whenever he like has to get a date, he's like, "Yeah, I can get a date, no problem," because women
Hmm.
just throw themselves at me. But like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like,
Um,
okay,
and like
it's like that.
the most intimate moment between two characters in this show was
Hmm.
between him and Elle when Elle washed
The
his feet.
foot, yeah, the
Yeah.
foot thing.
So,
Oh, can you tell me that if does Misa like kill herself or something after all this goes down at like the
yes.
very end of the episode? Is that what happens?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever shown anywhere, but yes, she does kill herself
Yeah, because it
at
looks
the
like
end of
she's
the
like at
show.
the top of the building and we don't
Yeah.
see her jump, but I'm just like, oh dude, she probably killed herself.
Yeah, there's I think there's one like follow-up one shot that doesn't confirm anything. It's just a fun little short story of someone else trying to be Kira and how
Oh,
badly it goes. It takes place a few years later because Nier is a teenager in it.
oh, okay.
So it's just one of those things, like a short story to say that Kira's legacy does continue.
Hmm.
Like I'm sure he's still going to have his followers and all of that,
Yeah.
but it's never going to go back to the level that it once was. But that was the end of Death Note. There is allegedly, and you can find it online, it's never been confirmed to be an actual thing written and drawn by the creator.
Hmm.
But allegedly, there's an alternate ending where Light wakes up in the Shinigami realm. Like he did such a good job killing people that he becomes a Shinigami, and then he goes on a mission to take
Wow.
over the Shinigami world. There's also one where he becomes president and lives to be an old man, but
Wow.
neither of these alternate endings have ever been confirmed to be by the artist.
I
So
see.
they could just be really well done fan drawings.
Yeah.
Um, but that's the end of Death Note.
Yep. Rest in peace, Death Note. But I'm glad I was able to watch it.
Yeah,
And
you
eventually we're
survived
gonna
your
have
first
to,
anime.
I know, and we'll have to watch that American movie
We
of
will.
it eventually.
We will.
Yes.
They do try to give Misa some agency, but they also still miss the point of Misa's character.
Oh God. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see how everything is squeezed into a movie.
Hmm.
A lot.
But yeah, what should we watch next? Fall of the House of
Hmm.
Usher to be hip?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I need to watch that. I've heard good things from my friends and also you because you've started it.
Um, well, I've started it and here's the thing, and this is an unpopular opinion for me. But so Sam, before I say this, have you watched any of the other Flanagan like TV shows on Netflix?
I've only watched Bly Manor. I need to watch
Oh,
I never watched Haunting of Hill House and I feel so bad, but
dude, watch that one first. It's the
uh,
best one.
okay. I really liked Bly Manor.
I know it's good, but that's because you didn't see the better one first.
Yeah. I know it's gonna be good.
It's like a sequel. Blind Manor is like a sequel.
And I've heard really good things about Midnight Mass.
Yeah, Midnight Mass really was interesting, but here's my unpopular opinion, and it's okay if you really like all these shows because a lot of people do, but for some reason in Blind Manor and even more in Midnight Mass, and I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but there's like something going on with how Flanagan directs where like every single episode is like one like giant hour, 1 hour monologue that's
Mm,
like boring and there's like no action until like the
mhm.
last episode. And I'm just sitting there like, it's like, to me, I'm like sitting there with like my mouth open and I'm drooling and I'm like, what is happening? It's like,
Mhm.
there's no, like, there's horrifying aspects, but like, um, it's just so much
Yeah.
dialogue, but like from one person and really, really long monologues. I'm like, oh shit. So anyway, with that being said, I watched the first episode of The House of Usher. It's kind of the same way. And there's other things that I would like to discuss about the show, but I'm gonna hold that
Yeah.
point until we get into it in our later minisodes.
Mhm.
It's not bad. I mean, it's cool because I'm glad that like we're having this like thing where we're actually trying to make media using Edgar Allan Poe's works. They're
Mhm.
so great. And excuse me, but I'm still waiting for people to like get it right.
Yeah.
So we'll
Um,
see as it goes on because I have heard a lot of good things too about it, Sam.
yeah, based on the first episode, do you think it would be worth kind of reading? I think I've looked at the episodes, and episodes are titled after short stories, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They are. So,
Do you think it'd be worth reading the short
hmm.
stories that are supposed to?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. So the first, here's the thing. The first episode is titled uh something. Uh, uh, I don't know if it's is it the short story title? Hang on, let me see. The show itself is a short story. Follow the House of
Yeah.
Usher miniseries. Here we go. Episode guide. First one, a miniature. So that is the Raven. Um, in the first episode, it looks like it's an amalgamation of different details and character names taken from at least 4 or 5 different short stories. So I couldn't say Sam until we got to episode 2, The Mask of the Red Death.
Okay.
That's a really good short story.
I
You'd
like
really
Mask of the
enjoy
Red
that.
Death.
You like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we reread it, I wouldn't be opposed. And I think it'd be beneficial to read as we go because then if you ever decide to rewatch it, you'll like it,
Hmm.
things will become clear. And that's one other thing I wanted to make mention of is in the first episode, every almost every single character's name, and there's a lot of characters, is a character from a short story or like a poem. Or
Okay.
someone that Poe knew in real life, but no one's name is Edgar Allan Poe yet, so they
Yeah.
probably won't be. Okay. And there's like little details that they throw out there like the titles of a short story here and there, so it can
Hmm.
become a lot to people who are like avid Poe like readers and stuff. It might be a little much, but I think we should, Sam, because
Okay.
these are the good ones. So like
Yeah.
Minaj, that's what you don't have to read the Raven, but yeah, I mean read the
Yeah. Well, I
Mask.
did actually just
Yeah.
kind of reread The Raven. Um,
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
yeah. Not
Did you? Yeah.
I've been my one of my goals for this year is to read and recommend 100 plays by my peers on New Play Exchange. So be on the lookout on Instagram for plays that I've read. And one of them was what I thought was going to just be a straightforward just The Raven on stage,
Yeah.
but he did something really kind of funny with it where
Yeah.
I called it The Raven Goes Wrong, like the play that goes wrong,
Yeah.
where there's one serious actor who's doing the actual like serious monologue, and then it's like clearly supposed to be a community theater production, so at the
Yeah.
last minute the person playing the Raven got replaced and doesn't really know the poem, so he
Oh
has to wait for
no.
cues to say and nevermore.
Oh, nice.
There's
That's
also always
funny.
the Simpsons, because the
Hmm.
Simpsons did a true for one of their very first Treehouse of Horrors. They did a true like Raven adaptation for one of the skits.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, cool. So you're familiar
Mhm.
with that. You've reread that, and that is good. Yeah, when I was
Um,
in, it looks like the very last episode is called The Raven Again. So we have
ooh,
that to fall back on again after a menagerie. Um,
and Annabelle Lee, I'm very familiar with because there's a really good kind of bluegrass song that's just Annabelle
oh.
Lee, but set to a nice bluegrass.
Oh
melody.
yeah. Huh. You know
Um,
what? That reminds me, I think I'm familiar with hearing about that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
listen to that song a lot. So I'm very familiar with Annabelle Lee. Um,
Well, great, but guess what? None of the episodes are called that, so you're fucked. I'm just
oh
kidding.
no.
I'm kidding. There was definitely a ton of that as well,
Listen,
so
if
that's
there's
great.
not some great romance going on in the background of these episodes, they fucked up.
Wait, if there's not some what romance?
Some great romance, like
Oh, yes, a great romance between a man and a woman with a really big age gap, and the woman is really sick and will probably die. And then that is, yes, also incest. But anyway, I digress. So I know.
yeah.
Well, and that leaves the fall of the House of Usher. So that
Yeah.
story um is not as exciting, but we can also read that too. I mean, maybe that should be the first thing that's read
Yeah.
because of the dynamic between the brother and sister.
Yeah.
What
My
do you
next
think, Sam? Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited to start it. And of course, we know that our next movie starts our Saw retrospective. Saw 1, last I checked, is on Amazon Prime for everybody listening.
Get that.
Um, but my question is
Yeah.
this series also going to be a mystery? Because an aspect of Poe that we often forget, we focus on him being like the father of Gothic American literature, but we forget that he did invent the detective genre.
Yes. Yeah. So whenever we whenever you watch the first episode, it is like a mystery to try to discover, who did this, who murdered who, because the family has like 1,000 kids in it, of course.
Yeah.
And the main character's name, well, there are two main characters who were involved with his detective novel. So one is August Dupin, which is
Hmm.
the detective in the Murders of the Rue Morgue. And then I'd have to rewatch it, but there's another character who's also named after one of the other detectives in like
Okay.
another story. So yeah, Sam, we have he
Excellent.
hasn't forgotten that, and I'm glad because it seems
No.
like Flanagan is a fan of Poe.
Yeah.
And he probably reread everything, and he's probably trying to. But right now, to me, in episode 1, there's like too much at once. But we'll see what happens as we go on with episodes. But yeah, I think we should go for it.
Okay. Because I find talking about Poe just like at the base level, the fact
Yeah.
that he is the father of the detective story is often
Yeah, people have no
not the
idea.
focus. And that's like
Yeah.
such a huge contribution to literature aside from the Gothic stuff. Um,
Right. Yeah. The Gothic stuff was most well known like to us now. And like we're like, yeah, he's like a horror guy. And it's like, well, he did everything, he did a lot. And he even did like comedy, and
yeah.
stuff too that people kind of overlook. And essays too. I have an entire collection of, just essays from him as well. So he was not just like a one trick pony,
Yeah.
he did it
Which
all.
he often gets painted as,
I agree. Yeah.
especially around Halloween. I love that Michaels has like an amazing selection of Poe merchandise every year at Halloween.
I know.
But he contributed so much to American literature.
Yeah, this is why I keep those decorations up year round because it's
Yeah.
not like he's not like Mr. Halloween. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I appreciate it because I can buy post
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people they don't get it. And then the more that Michaels does this and the more that other people like just bring him up during Halloween and do like horror stuff, the
Hmm.
more we'll just forget that aspect of
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it's good to know. It's good to bring up. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so Amazon Prime, yep, it's there. Better stay there.
Okay.
I'll be damned.
So I guess this is a trigger warning that the next few minutes minisodes are going to be very literary analysis heavy.
Yeah. So if
Um,
you love Poe or you never read Poe, why don't we start with The Fall of the House of Usher
and I
and go
guess
from there?
another good point to bring up that's literary analysis is how Gothic literature is not necessarily synonymous with horror.
Yeah.
Gothic was just a response to the romance genre because romance paints like this beautiful picture of the world and everything's lovely and everything's achievable. Like from transcendentalism onward, it was all like rose tinted glasses, and then the Gothic movement kind of came and said, Well, no, there's also kind of this grotesque side to humanity and the world that we're not really exploring through literature, and that's what the Gothic movement
Yeah.
addressed. And that is spooky. That is scary when you're going from this fantastical look at life to something darker.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up romanticism because I was actually going to bring it up if you didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Gothic was a response to romanticism, not a let's
yeah.
create horror.
Also, keep in mind that a lot of the romantics, so those authors that did write romanticism, such as Nathaniel Hawthorne and Edgar Allan Poe
Hmm.
and Jules Verne, things like that, they did also write, Gothic novels and
Yeah.
short stories,
Like
especially
I would
Nathaniel Hawthorne.
especially Nathaniel Hawthorne because Nathaniel Hawthorne was dealing with a lot of guilt over his family legacy.
Yeah, and I would say his stuff, if you are looking for something like very dark
Hmm.
and it's not Poe you want, it's Hawthorne, I would say,
Oh
because
yeah.
his stuff's about like Satan and
Yeah.
devil
The
worshiping and
fucking
crazy
Scarlet
stuff.
Letter.
Yeah, and that novel, I'm actually thinking of his short stories as well, such as
Mhm.
Young Goodman Brown, but even
Oh,
still,
good one. Oh yeah.
it's just like
Because
yeah, guys, what Sam
because
said.
Hawthorne's like great great grandfather was one of the judges in the Salem witch trials, and
Yes,
he
yes.
carried that shit with a lot of guilt, and his work is very critical of puritanicalism.
Oh,
And anyway,
yes.
we'll get into this more in the mini shows. So
Yeah,
get ready
absolutely.
for some literature.
Well, let's get this settled. So for the next mini show, you want to read, do you want to read and start with The Fall of the House of Usher, a short story? You want to do that first?
Yes.
And then have watched episode one
Yes.
for the next mini show. But then in betweener, just to really get back to our roots, you guys, Sam and I really love the Saw franchise, and her and I really want to watch all of them again now
Yeah.
that the new one came out last fall.
All right.
So, yeah, so let's really get into it with our minds and the literature, but also with our viewing pleasure to kind of like take a break from the 1800s text and get into something more visceral.
Yeah.
So it'll be a nice like contrast, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen Saw, oh my God,
It's time to
please
catch
watch it
up.
with us. I know. Now's the time to catch up. If you only saw like one, two, and three and just are now realizing there's 10, why don't we start over again, you guys? Now's the
Yeah.
time.
Well, there's more than 10. There's Jigsaw
11. Yeah, wait,
and
no.
Spiral 12. There's at least 12. I think there's
12?
at least 12.
Oh, yeah, I think you're
If
right.
we're counting the unnumbered, which if we're doing a retrospective, we
Yes.
have to.
All of
Anyway,
them. I'm counting all of them. Yes, you're right. Yeah, all of them, including Spiral. Yes.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Well, then it's settled. So watch Saw, you guys, for
Watch
next
Saw,
week.
watch
Hell yeah.
Fall of the House of Usher, read Fall of the House of Usher, and we will talk next week.
Yeah, and we'll check your homework, guys, because you
Yeah.
got some.
All right.
Okay. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
I love the